Yes,
Uh,
sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, please let me welcome Dheeraj, and I'll be asking our community lead Smriti to welcome him. Smriti, could you please give his introduction and welcome him to the webinar?
Yes, sir, sure. So, hello everyone. Today we have Mr. Dheeraj Singh with us. He is from Pune, Maharashtra. He is an engineer from computer science background. He is an experienced analyst and with a demonstrate history of working in information technology and service industry. He is skilled in cryptography, cryptocurrency, and Java. He is also a strong arts and design professional, currently working at CL4 Digital Ledger Consulting Private Limited. Over to you, Mr. Dheeraj.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. As I've been already introduced, I am Dheeraj Singh, and I am actually a digital evidence analyst at CL4 Digital Ledger Consulting Private Limited. With CL4, I've worked in the fields of like cyber trainings, where I've conducted a lot of trainings in a lot of colleges and schools across India. I have done forensic investigation, that is, I have worked with Pune Police and I have helped them with forensics. And I have also worked in the field of smart contracts, which is a part of blockchain domain. Now, today I have this opportunity to share my views on information security, which is again one of the most important domains in cybersecurity. Today we are going to discuss on information security, stop, think, and connect. So before knowing about the hype of information security, let's just see the current scenario, what we are facing in today's world. So if you have read the news a lot, you will be getting through these news also. This is a quite old news, but it's very popular. Mark Zuckerberg's Facebook account hacked, along with 90 million other users were affected by the security breach. This happened actually in September 2018. Um, so this situation happened in September 2018, and it occurred because there were a lot of bugs. Actually, there were 3 bugs that were found in Facebook's website and app, and using those bugs, some unknown hackers were able to exploit that and were able to get information regarding 90 million users, in which one of the accounts was Mark Zuckerberg's account and the other account was Sheryl Sandberg's account. Sheryl Sandberg is COO of FB. So these accounts were compromised and the data was compromised. Now, immediately when the security team find out that it got compromised, what they did is they generated a security token for each and every account that was hacked, and every account that was hacked was actually logged out from their devices. So they had to log in again and they will have to change password. So this is one of the biggest attacks that had happened. Another one, this is a very recent attack. This is Cognizant. Cognizant was the biggest target in this case. This is Maze ransomware attack, and it happened in April 2020. Now, for those of you who don't know what ransomware is just a harmful software which we call a malware. Now, this ransomware, what it does is it locks all the information that is present inside your computer or mobile phone. And in order to unlock that, you will have to get a key. Now that key belongs to the hacker. So if you want to get the key, you'll have to pay some money. The money can be anything between $300 to $1,000,000 or more than that. So this is the amount that you will have to pay, and they will give you the key so that you can unlock all your information. You can get it back. Now this is just a traditional ransomware, just a normal ransomware. A big example is WannaCry, then Petya, NotPetya, CryptoLocker. These are some traditional ransomwares. So these ransomwares, they affected the systems. They used to demand money, which was around $300, and also they used to demand money in the form of Bitcoin. They didn't ask you money to pay directly because obviously Bitcoin is untraceable. Okay, so people used to ask money in the form of Bitcoin so that they can't, police can't trace them. Now, if I talk about Cognizant, Maze ransomware is much more dangerous than any other traditional ransomware because firstly, it locks your computer, so all your information is lost. Secondly, before locking the computer, before locking all your information, what it does is it exfiltrates your information. So basically, it makes a copy of all your information that is present in your computer and it shares it with the hackers. Now, just think about Cognizant. Cognizant is running a business, so obviously they will have some confidential information present in their computers. So that confidential information now belongs to the hackers. Okay. Now, this another thing about this Maze ransomware was that it can travel via network. So basically, let's say if you're connected to the same Wi-Fi, if your device and your friends or your employee's device is also connected to the same Wi-Fi, and you have the Maze ransomware, it will travel from the same Wi-Fi network to the other person's Wi-Fi network. So these are the things that Maze ransomware did. And that's why Cognizant had to suffer a huge loss. Now, if I talk about another of these attacks, nearly 25,000 email addresses and passwords allegedly from NIH, WHO, Gates Foundation, and others are dumped online. Now, this is also a very recent case. This also occurred in April 2020 during this lockdown situation. Now, the biggest problem about this lockdown situation is that the hackers have got this opportunity to perform different types of attacks, because there are a lot of people who are right now scared and they want to just get, like, they want to just survive from this situation. So that's why there are hackers who are taking advantage of this situation and are trying to perform a lot of types of attacks like phishing, fraud, money laundering, and a lot of types of attacks which is easily possible online. And nowadays, if you talk about the internet, everybody is online. So this is a big problem right now. So this was one of the biggest attacks that had happened recently. And another case, if I talk about Maharashtra's Apex Cybercrime Investigation Unit cautions against frauds. Over 180 cases were registered so far. So this is just registered cases that have occurred in Maharashtra. Then there are certain cases which might not have been registered yet. There are certain cases which are not in Maharashtra. Consider about India itself. How many cases will be registered? Frauds are very common in India. Not just in India, in any part of the world, cyber fraud is very common. The easiest part about cyber fraud is that you don't need to have a very good technical or programming knowledge or any technical skill to conduct a cyber fraud. It's as easy as calling a person. You can just call a person and conduct a cyber fraud. That's why it's so easy, and people can easily, hackers can easily adapt to this. Earlier, people were used to, like, they used to work in the real world. They used to contact in the real world. That's why frauds used to occur in the real world. But nowadays, frauds are occurring in cyber world, because obviously most of the people are staying online. Just think of today's situation. Nobody is doing any physical work. Every work that is being done is done via internet. That's why internet is slowing down. Now, if you see all these cases, whether it's Facebook case, Cognizant, email addresses, and there are many more cases like that, the target here is always the information that is available in your computers. Why are they targeting information? Why are they not targeting money? Why are they not targeting the banks or any like Bitcoin websites, cryptocurrency websites? The most of the targets are usually either IT industries or hospital industry, like hospital domain or education domain. These companies, these infrastructures are getting targeted very much. Even Microsoft has done a research and they have found out that ransomware attackers are actually actively making crisis worse. They are forcing the healthcare and critical infrastructure organizations to pay up when they can't afford the downtime right now. So they are targeting these industries. Now, before going into information security, we'll just go through this graph. Here, as you can see in the graph, it shows the amount of money that people have lost, or organizations or anybody has lost due to cybercrime. Now, if you go 20 years back, like around 2001, you'll see it's around $17.8 million. Now it has been steadily increasing, but coming around 2015, 2016, it came up to $1.4 billion, which is a huge amount. And since then, it has not been steadily increasing. It is increasing at a very high rate. If you compare 2018 and 2019, it's like 18 is to $2.7 billion, and 2019 is $3.5 billion, which is a huge amount. And that equal amount is being spent by a lot of companies to invest in cybersecurity every year. People, companies, government, everybody is investing a lot of amount in cybersecurity every year. But still there are some missing or weak links in the networks, which allows the attackers to breach into the network and is able to steal important information. Now, talking about information, let's see what information actually is traveling online. So this is actually a record of 2019. This is every minute on internet, and this is the record of 2019. So we'll start with Google. 3.8 million requests are generated every minute on Google. So basically 3.8 million people are searching on Google. Now, if you consider, let's say one request is equal to 1 KB of data, then 3.8 million requests is around 3.8 GB of data that is generated. And this amount of data is generated in 1 minute. So consider 24 hours, one day. Around 380 terabytes of data are generated every day. Now, the most interesting fact is that this amount of data is stored in some hardware, some computer, some server, anywhere, and they don't delete this. It's important for them. Now consider past 1 year, past 10 years or 20 years, the amount of data that is stored in Google server. And these all data is important, and it is our responsibility to protect that information. Now let's say Instagram, 347,222 scrolls, 1 million views on Twitch. Twitch is a streaming app. It is not popular in India, but it's popular outside. 87,500 people on Twitter, they are posting. 4.8 million GIF served. $996,956 spent online. 390,000 apps downloaded around from Play Store or Apple's App Store. 1 million logging in from Facebook. Facebook is the biggest social media website. 4.5 million videos watched. 2.1 million snaps taken on Snapchat. 1.4 million swipes on Tinder. 46,200 new posts on Instagram. 694,000 hours watched on Netflix. 188 million emails sent. And then 41.6 million messages sent on WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger or any instant messaging service. So this is the amount of data that is generated in just 1 minute on internet. And that too, this is data of 2019. Now consider 2020 when we are stuck in this lockdown situation. There are more people on internet than there were earlier. As if you have heard the news, if you are watching YouTube on mobile phone, you know that you cannot watch video on mobile phone on above 480 pixel, even if you have the best quality internet. Why are they doing this? They're doing this because internet is slowing down, because nowadays everyone is connected to internet. We are so habituated to the technology that if just think how much time can you spend without your mobile phone and laptop? Can you like survive? If I can use the correct word, how much time can you survive? It's very difficult. Consider the time if you have a phone and a laptop but no internet access. What are the things that you can do at this situation? Basically nothing. There is nothing to do. So if you have internet, you have lots of options. Yeah, there may be certain situations where you can do a lot of things, but for most people it's very difficult. Like I have faced a group of students or group of people who, like, it's like a addiction for them. They can't even survive 1 minute without a laptop or mobile phone or internet. So now the problem here is this everything started when Jio was started. Jio, when they started giving free internet access. The problem was that people know that you can connect to internet by turning on mobile data, but what should you do on internet? What website should you visit? What are the things that you should be scared about on internet? They don't know about them. And so they are doing anything that they can get. So if, like, for example, if I give you a fraud case example, you might have seen some news where you are visiting a website and suddenly a new page pops up and it says that you can win an iPhone if you just click on this link and you just fill the form and you can get the iPhone. But that's fake. Nobody will give you an iPhone for free. Okay, so most of these cases are fake, but then people obviously will try because it's an iPhone. Who doesn't want an iPhone in today's world? It's a brand. So obviously people do make it a try. Then also you will get messages like you can win $1 million or you can win a brand new Scorpio or Bolero or any car or any Mercedes vehicle. So these are all fake news. Nobody will give this for free, and that too just for a small piece of information. So these are certain fraud cases that occur every day. So people don't know about it. So it's our responsibility. It's one of our jobs to make them aware of this situation and to let them know that these are the things that you should be scared of and you should not do these things. Now coming back to the previous question again, why is information the target? The biggest reason behind information being the target is this: data is the new oil. The world's most valuable resource is no longer oil, but data. So consider that data is not just data anymore. It's a product right now, which every marketing expert wants to sell. Consider the biggest tech giants, Google and Facebook. How are they earning? Most of their products are free. If you talk about Gmail, they're giving 15 GB space for free. Facebook is giving you their apps for free. Then how are they earning? Obviously there is ads there. Concept of ads is there, that they are showing ads and they're generating revenue. But that's not the huge amount of revenue that they generate. the huge amount of revenue that they generate is from by selling our information. Obviously, they don't sell our name and mobile numbers and email addresses, but then they share our likes and dislikes. What do you like? What do you don't like? What do you search on Google? What do you search on YouTube? They record everything. These are the information. For example, if I search on Google that brand new iPhone under brand new phone under 10,000 rupees, so Google has found out that I need a phone. I am searching for a phone under 10,000 rupees. So next time when you visit any website, you will find that every website is showing you a phone which costs only 10,000 rupees or under 10,000 rupees. How is this happening? Because Google has found this out and is selling this information to the advertising companies. So this is the targeting marketing strategy in today's world. Now there is no traditional marketing where you have your own store and you just show your ad on TV or on newspapers, because that costs a lot of time and money. Nowadays people are using targeted marketing. So consider that you have a sports store and you want to show your ad, and there are 1,000 audiences. Now out of those 1,000 people, 10 people are willing to buy your product. First of all, if you go by a traditional strategy, you will never get to know who are those 10 people who want to buy your product. But if you go by a targeted marketing, then Google will help you out to find out exactly those 10 people who want to buy this product, and exactly they will only see your ad and they will be buying it. So you will be generating revenue. So there's some profit in that. So this is the biggest advantage of data today. So every company in today's world is not actually, whenever you delete anything on internet, it doesn't get deleted. Yeah. Nobody is deleting anything. They are recording each and every information. Even your mouse click, if I am click on OK button, that is also being recorded, and they analyze that and they get to know what you're doing. So you just remove this concept that like you can hide everything. Even if you are hiding every information, there are still businesses and companies who are able to see your information and able to analyze it. Because if you talk about Facebook, you go to settings app and you check the permissions that you have given to your Facebook and Google app. Basically, if you read the terms and conditions of Facebook, you have said, it's written clearly that whatever you post on Facebook doesn't completely belong to you, it belongs to Facebook. So they can use it in whatever they wish they want to. So that's a big problem. Now, if I talk about the other market that is there, which is black market. So obviously people sell your information on black market. What is the price of your information in black market? If I just talk about your mobile number can be sold at $30 to $200. Just your mobile number, 10-digit number. If I sell your government ID details, it will be around $10 to $35. Bank credentials like account number and PIN will be around $300 to $500 to $1,000. It can be anything. Credit card information can be sold at a higher price. So this is your price in a black market. So this amount of information, obviously every company is trying to find out, like every hacker is trying to find out this information from every website. So biggest source of getting your personal information is obviously social media. That's why hackers target social media. Then other confidential information you can get from specific company websites where you have logged in and you have shared your information with. For example, if I talk about Google, you have shared your credit card information someday, because Google is obviously storing your credit card information somewhere. Same for Amazon, Uber, you have shared your either credit card or debit card information. Now it's the responsibility of these companies to protect that information so that these doesn't get sold. There has been a lot of cases where persons just credit card number, that like there had been people who have been sharing that credit card number online. If you go to Twitter, you will find that there was a lady who shared her credit card number online, and then there in her comment section a lot of people started posting, please share the back photo of the credit card. And she was not such a big idiot that she would share the back photo, but although she shared the CVV number that was written, she shared that my CVV number is this, I don't know why people are asking. And in 10 minutes, her credit card balance came from max to zero. And she couldn't understand what has happened. So there are people like this who are online. Then there are people who are cautious enough, but still their credit card information gets stolen online. Like people will call you from any random number and will tell you, sir, I am calling from this bank and you have account number here with this mobile number, registered to this mobile number. So I just want to say that your account has been blocked, and if you want to unblock, you'll have to share some personal information. In that, they will obviously ask you your full account number. They will ask you your PIN code. They will finally, the last thing that they will say, sir, for security reasons, we have shared an OTP to your mobile number. Please share the OTP with me. Sure. And then obviously if you share the OTP, you will see that after some minutes, all your amount is getting lost. So there are people who get fooled by this. So people need to be very careful when you are doing transactions online. You need to be very careful when you are sharing your information online. You should not share your information with any person online. Now, when it comes to securing your personal info, so it is not the responsibility of the company only to secure your personal information. It is an individual's responsibility. You will have to secure your personal information. Also, company will have to do their work on their own. Now, at a personal level, obviously, if I talk about any personal information, either the personal information will be stored in your computer. Now, obviously, your computer has an operating system which can be protected by a password, or even if you are storing it in any folder or file, that file can also be protected by a password. If I talk about your personal information stored online, it can be stored in any account, whether it's Facebook account or Google account or bank account. It is stored in an account. An account is also protected by a password. So wherever you see, you will see that it is protected by a password. Our only responsibility is to protect that password. So we'll have to create a strong password. Now, in order to create a strong password, you will find out that every website will tell you that please create an 8-character password, and please type capital letters, please type small letters, please type numbers, letters, symbols, everything. So this is a website. If you search in Google, how secure is my password, you will get the URL in the beginning only. You can type any password here. For example, if I type PASSWORD, it will tell me how much time will it take for any person to break this password. So it says instantly. So this is a very weak password. Even a lot of people, they do a lot of creativity. What they do is they type capital P, instead of A they will type @ and then instead of S they will type $W, instead of O they will type 0 and then RD. It takes 9 hours. 9 hours is not a very big huge amount of time to break the password. So basically, if I start breaking, there are automated softwares. If I ask my software to start breaking it, and if I go to sleep, by the morning it will be broken for me. So it's very weak. Now consider a strong password. So I'm typing a strong password. 13,000 years. This is a 13-character password which has all the requirements like capital letters, small letters, numbers, symbols, everything is there, and it takes 13,000 years. So obviously nobody will be waiting for this amount of years to break your password. So this is how you should create a password, at least 13 characters. Nowadays, don't keep it.
Hold on for a second.
Yes, sir.
For the sake of audience, yes, what exactly did you type over there? Because we are running out of time, so.
Okay. No issues. I'll just.
The moral responsibility for, yeah.
Okay. I hope that this notepad is visible to everyone. I'll share you the password.
Yes.
But please don't use this password.
No, it's fine.
So this is the password that I typed. Now, a lot of people, they do question me, how do you remember this? It's very easy to remember. If you look into this clearly, first letter is J, then there is @, then J, W, U plus H plus F @P0W. Now, J, Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. It's a very common rhyme that everybody has studied in school. So you can use this. So the concept behind this is, if you want to keep a strong password, find something that you know, maybe rarely any other people will know about, and then just use some random characters from there and change A to @, T to plus, O to 0, and then you will get a strong password. But this password is so strong that no hacker can break it easily, because this password cannot be found in dictionary. No dictionary will have this password. Secondly, and if he tries to break normally, as you know, it will take 13,000 years. So nobody will be waiting for 13,000 years to break your password. So this is a website that you can obviously refer to if you want to check the strength of your password. Secondly, what you can do is, every web company right now is offering 2FA, two-factor authentication or two-step verification. So you can keep that also. In that case, what will happen is, so you'll have to type your email address and password. Once you type that, you will get a OTP on your registered mobile number. Once you type the OTP, you get logged into the profile. So that is 2FA. That is another levels of security which you can use. Another method that you can use is encryption. So when I was talking about ransomware, basically what I said was locking. So encryption is basically the same thing. It's locking only. So what a ransomware does is encryption. It basically locks your data so that nobody can unlock it. So here what you should do is you lock your own data with your own key and don't share your key with anybody. So nobody in this world will be able to unlock it because it's locked by you only and you only have the key. So if you share the key with anyone, they will be able to unlock it. So that is encryption. The third thing is backup information. Confidential information, some important information that you use regularly, and you think that if this information gets stolen or destroyed, it will be a very big loss for you. So best thing to do is that you just keep a backup of that information in some other computer, and do not connect this computer to network, to internet. Keep it disconnected from internet so that no hacker from outside can also connect to this backup information and destroy it. It is very useful when it comes to ransomware attacks, because if ransomware destroys your computer, you can get all your information back from the backup. So it's very useful. Another good thing, firewall and antivirus, very useful and very important. Antivirus will protect you from all the types of malwares that is there, whether it's virus, worm, trojan, ransomware. Firewall will protect you from any unauthorized access from outside. If there is someone who's trying to access your computer from outside without your permission, firewall will be ready to block it. So it's very useful. Fifth and most important, avoid public networks. If you're using public Wi-Fi or you are using cyber cafe, never ever try to visit any website which has login page, because most of them are either hacked. Most public Wi-Fi's are either hacked or being monitored by the owner. So you should never visit those login pages, because obviously they will get your user ID and password easily. So these are something that you can do at a personal level. What are the things that you can do if you are part of an organization? The best thing that you can do is risk analysis and management. So this is a 5-step process. First thing you need to do here is you need to find information is critical for your organization, not for yourself, for your organization. So you'll have to find these details. Then you will have to find out what are the threats that are going to harm this information. Maybe those information, or maybe the storage devices where you have stored. You will have to find out those threats. Third thing you'll have to do is you'll have to find out what security measures you can use so that those threats do not affect your information. Maybe you'll have to install some new hardware or softwares or security algorithms like firewalls and antivirus to stop those threats. Fourth thing you will have to do is you'll have to hire a team of security researchers, basically cybersecurity professionals, who will be doing these steps for you. They will be identifying your information. They will be doing risk analysis. They will be performing security measures. They will be doing the monitoring part. They will be doing the updating part. Updating is very important because every technology gets updated every year. So obviously you will have to stay updated with that. Fifth part that you have to do is another very important part is prepare a BCP strategy. BCP is business continuity planning strategy. Here, basically what you will have to do is consider that the threat attacked your system and you lost your critical info. At that time, what will you do? How will you run your business? This is what you need to plan beforehand. Consider that all your security measures failed and the threat attacked you. So what are the things that you are going to do so that your business still runs smoothly? The best example for this is right now. We are in a lockdown situation. Every company is trying to run from home. So basically every company has pre-planned this situation that if in future we have to work from home, then what are the things that we can do so that still the business can generate a revenue. Okay. So that's why still in today's world, you will see most businesses are still generating revenue even if we are staying at home and working at home. So that's the BCP strategy that every company has already planned about. This is very important for every organization to do a BCP, to generate a BCP strategy and to do a risk management and analysis and management. Now at the end, I'll just like to conclude by saying that whenever you do anything online, these are the 3 basic things that you just ask yourself. First thing, do you ever stop before you download any file from any website? Do you ever think about doing it? Like, do you know what you are downloading? For example, I'll just give you a simple example. If you go to App Store, whether it's Apple App Store or Android App Store, you'll see a lot of paid apps there. But if you search the same app on Google, you'll find a lot of websites that are giving you those apps for free. You will get pirated music, pirated videos, pirated movies for free. You will find paid softwares for free. The first question is, why are they giving me for free? What is their purpose of giving it? So there will be 2 reasons. First reason is generating revenue. So if you see that that website is generating a lot of ads, then that means that website is just generating revenue. But if that website is not generating a lot of ads, then that means there is something fishy in that. That means the app or software that you're trying to download is going to harm your computer. Maybe that software it's itself a virus or any type of malware, or maybe that software is attached with another type of malware, so that when you run the software will run, but with that the malware will run. So that's the problem. Any paid software that you get for free, I'm guaranteeing you will have a malware inside it. It will obviously have a malware inside it. Either it's a Trojan, mostly it is a Trojan or a virus. So Trojan is a software that hacks your computer and gives permission to the attackers to do anything with your computer. Second question, do you think before clicking any link on any email, have you ever thought you got an email from someone and they are telling you to just click on this link and you just have to fill
Become
up some
rich.
form, or you'll have to do something. Yeah, you'll have to be rich. Or maybe bank is telling you, sir, due to some attacks, we have changed our security. So please go on to this website, go to your bank website and please log in again. And you will be like, for security reasons, we have logged you out. Please log in again.
Dheeraj,
So you
I
will
think
get that money.
we are losing time. It's a beautiful discussion that you are having. So I can continue the session if you wish, but I have another parallel session which is going to start very soon, within 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Sorry for the same, but I
Okay.
would love to share one information. I think
Yes, sir,
you
please.
can give me the best answer. For an example, I think a week back there is a WhatsApp message which is being circulated that Netflix is giving some free movies or something like that. Click on this link.
Yeah.
If you look at that
Okay.
link, that was a netflix.net or .co.in, that kind of domain,
Yeah.
without a SSL
Yes.
certificate. And people
Yes.
not even thinking on that, clicking on that particular link, and their mobile is actually hacked, and
Yes.
it is being generated multiple number of texts, sending the same kind
Yes.
of link so that people can actually
Yes.
lose
True.
their data.
True.
You know?
True. This is a very common WhatsApp hack. What people see in the link is the name of the company, Netflix.
Yes.
They just saw Netflix, so they thought it's Netflix. Same has happened with Flipkart when Flipkart started Big Billion Day sale. So the URL was something like this: http://flipkart.net. First thing, it is HTTP. Flipkart
Yes.
is never HTTP.
Yes.
And secondly, it is flipkart.net.
Net.
So it's not .net. People are not seeing that. People are seeing Flipkart. So there they were selling headphones and TVs for ₹1. So everybody started buying products from there. So these are big, very common frauds. And what people do, the biggest mistake that they do is they just see the name of the company. They
And
don't
then click
read
it.
the complete URL. Yeah.
True.
Sir,
So
one
we
more
are
thing.
actually, really sorry, participants. We can't go for question and answer at the moment. We are over with the timing. Really sorry. We'll bring Dheeraj again, but in a different kind of webinar altogether.